Hi and welcome to Mimi on the Move. I am Mimi, and right now I'm on the move at the laundromat waiting for my clothes to get clean, and then I'll put them in the dryer. Welcome to the channel if you've never been here before, and welcome back if you have been here before. This channel is a mishmash. Anyways, depending on what's on my mind that day, then that's what we'll talk about. I do a lot of my communicating through my songs that I write and produce and put on YouTube, on my channel. And it's just easier for me to communicate through music. I'm not as good a talker as I am a songwriter and a musical arranger. So bear with me while I get through the talking one. Today is a talking one. And it's been on my mind lately. There's been so much going on in our world, and we here in Canada sometimes get caught up in the politics of the United States. And I'm not sure if we do that to distract ourselves from our own politics. I don't know. Or if it's just that the US is so big and bold out there that we can't help but get involved. I even remember as a kid my parents saying, well, you know, we're under the umbrella of the US. They take care of Canada in many ways. They're bigger than us. They're whatever. They're anyways. So I guess that's why we're so closely connected to them and their politics. And boy, don't they have some politics been going on in the last 20 years. If you're like me in your 70s, the last 20 years seems like 5 years if you're young. But when you're old, 20 years is nothing. And I noticed that there's been a lot of anger between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party in the US since Obama left. I don't think there was too much animosity before that, or if there was, I just wasn't paying attention. So I really don't know. But there has been an awful lot of anger created basically globally due to the Democrats and the Republicans in the States. They can't seem to get on the same page on pretty much anything. And I'm not in favor of any political party. I am in favor of the right things in life, like justice, right? Good, healthy food for our families, affordable housing. I'm for all of that stuff, but I'm not for the any particular party. Sometimes there's little bits of each party that I like, and so therefore I can't stay stuck being loyal to one party, because there's always stuff in each party that I don't like or agree with. So, but today I'm not really talking about politics, even though it may seem like that, but I'm not. Trust me when I tell you I'm not. It's more about the environment. The environment. And I don't mean environment like air and water and land. I mean environment in the social aspect. The social environment is, whoa, over the top. And sometimes it's a good thing. Sometimes it's not a good thing. But what I've noticed about the young man that was assassinated on September 10th, his name was Charlie Kirk, and I've noticed that the Democratic Party is doing a really good job of making him look like a really bad human being, and the Republican Party is not doing that. Granted, he was a Republican by political nature, but that wasn't what his life work was. His life work was about reaching the young people in the universities, reaching them and trying and hoping they would find God and live a good life, find somebody that you want to spend your life with, marry them and have children, create families. That's what Charlie Kirk was about. But I've heard a lot of things on Democratic news stations taking a sentence and making it something it's not. completely out of context. And I say this because I have been a follower of Turning Point USA for 4 years. Turning Point USA was founded and operated by Charlie Kirk when he was quite young. He's only 31. He was still very young when he was assassinated, but he was in his 20s when he began Turning Point. And his whole agenda, his whole life goal is to help young people find God. I'm not saying that good or bad about God. I'm just saying that was his lifelong goal. So whatever you may be hearing in the mainstream media that's not that, go do some research. That's all I'm saying. Do some research. If you've never watched or followed any of Turning Point episodes, if you've never watched any of the Prove Me Wrong, I think it's called, gatherings at universities over the last at least 4 years, because that's all I've got to talk about is the last 4 years. If you've never seen any of those things where Charlie Kirk is leading them, if you've never listened to Charlie Kirk speak in a complete lecture, I'm not saying bits and pieces that the media shows you. I'm talking about a complete lecture. If you've never heard him do a complete lecture, if you've never looked into his biography, if you've never followed him and learned about him, you can't talk about it. That's it. That's how simple it is. Unless you're learned in a subject, you better keep your mouth closed, because you end up looking like a fool and you sounding like the mainstream media puppet. And I know that sounds really harsh. And I don't have enough followers to care about losing any. So I'll just pretty much say what I want. And I don't count my followers as my worth on YouTube. My worth on YouTube is for me to speak what I believe in. And you don't have to believe that. You can have your own beliefs. That's what our world is supposed to be about. But what is disturbing to me is that recently Jimmy Kimmel, his network, put a halt on his show. Now, I know about 5 months ago he made an announcement that this was his last season because his ratings were so low that the network was going to call this his last season. So he was already on his way out. But a lot of people don't want to talk about that because maybe they didn't hear that bit on the news. But he was already leaving. And he made the announcement himself. I saw the show. You could probably look it up on YouTube, that particular episode where he announced his soon-to-be departure. Anyways, so here we've got this, Jimmy Kimmel, who is definitely extreme leftist Democrat. And then we've got Charlie Kirk, who was mostly a man of God, but if in the political field, he was leaning in the Republican direction. Or definitely was a Republican. Probably that was what more like it. My point is this. The media influences all the people who only watch mainstream media. So all the people who only watch mainstream media believe that everything they're being told is truth. If any of those people who watch only mainstream media were to look at independent media as well, they would find out there's more than one side to this coin. There's different opinions. You see, mainstream media is pretty much owned by all the same corporations: ABC, NBC, CBC, MSNBC. They're all. If you go down the trail, and you can, I've done it. If you go down the trail of who funds those networks, in the final analysis, most of the same big corporations fund all the mainstream media. And guess what? They also fund the Democratic Party. So if you think you're getting balanced news reporting on mainstream media, you're not. And you don't have to believe me. Just go check it out for yourself. Always check things out for yourself. Don't believe anybody. I don't believe anybody. I go and check things out for myself. Okay, like I said, I don't lean in any one direction, but I believe in balance. balance of information, balance of truth. So here we've got Charlie Kirk, getting back to that, and Jimmy Kimmel. Charlie Kirk, at age 31, a God-fearing man with children and a wife, and Turning Point USA. And then you've got Jimmy Kimmel, the entertainer, the Democrat. Charlie Kirk was assassinated because he spoke and thought what Democrats don't like. In fact, it scares the heck out of them, what he talks about. It threatens them because they don't look for unity. They look for division. You just have to watch all kinds of programs to know that. But you don't have to believe me. You can go check it out for yourself. There has been more outrage over the ending of Jimmy Kimmel's TV show by the Democrats than there has been over the assassination of a young man with a wife and children. Okay, I'm going to just say that one more time because I can hardly believe it when I say it. The Democrats in the USA feel more outrage for the cancellation of Jimmy Kimmel's talk show than they had for the assassination of a young man, father and husband, God-fearing man. Does that seem balanced to you? No, it's not. There's something really wrong in our world if the cancellation of a TV show is more important than the life of another human being. The mainstream media, all the networks, they're given scripts of what to say. That's why no matter what channel of news you turn on the television, you get the exact same words. There's no critical thinking with reporters anymore, journalists. They're a thing of the past. These people are script reading actors. There's very few journalists left in the world, or at least in North America. And the ones that are true journalists, they get tagged with bad names because they try to show both sides, and that's not how the people that own the media want things portrayed. They want it portrayed in one way only. And that's obvious. You just have to look at all the news stations and hear them saying all the same thing. And they're not saying it because it's all true. I'm not saying it's not all true. There are truths that do come out, few and far between. But unless you start looking for yourself, researching for yourself, then you're going to believe everything that you see from those networks that are owned by the Democratic Party, that the pharmaceuticals fund, and so on and so on. The list goes on and on. It doesn't end. That's another story altogether. The point is, be cautious if you have a critical thinking brain. If you have a critical thinking brain, you don't need me to talk to you because you already know what I know. But if you're following all the same networks all the time, and you're not looking at any independent journalism, which, by the way, in my opinion, independent journalism is the only journalism left. Like I said, the people you see on TV are just actors reading scripts. They don't do their own research anymore. They get given the information to tell you. And if that's okay with you, then fine. That's nothing wrong. I'm not putting it down. I'm just calling it for what it is. And unless you do any kind of research on your own, you're not going to know that. So if you've had enough of that, you better leave my channel now, because I'm still going to speak my mind. I'm not a Republican person. I'm not a Democratic person. I'm not a liberal person. I'm not a conservative person. I have little bits of all of that going on inside of me. But I'm not just strong in one direction, because to me that doesn't make sense. That's not a good balance. I need a little bit of everything so that I can come to my own personal beliefs, because there's no media that's ever going to tell me what to believe. I have to do the research myself. And yeah, it takes a lot of time. But guess what? That's something I do have right now. I do have today. I don't know if I have tomorrow, but I do have today. And today I spend my days looking into things and researching and looking at both sides. And if there's 3 sides, I'll look at 3 sides. That's really important. That's about it, really. That was really all I wanted to say. My real message is that it's just like, I don't know what the word is. I was thinking it might be ironic, but I don't think that's the right word. What's the word when the mass media, legacy media, mainstream media, the same thing, wants you to believe that the cancellation of one man's talk show because of low ratings and things he may have said that weren't appropriate, the canceling of that show caused more outrage with Democrats than the assassination of a young man who was out trying to do good for the world. And if you don't believe that Charlie Kirk was trying to do good for the world, I will suggest to you to go to Turning Point USA and start learning about what he believed and what he was trying to create. Now, that may not change your mind, fine, but at least you did your own research. And if you're afraid of having your mind changed, don't go there and learn about it. Okay, that's how simple it is. And with that, I'm going to say goodbye. And I do wish you all love, wherever you can get it, and wherever you can give it. It is about love. Another thing that I'd like to say, from the moment that Charlie Kirk was assassinated, I made a promise to myself to live with purpose, passion, and positivity. And that's what I'm doing right now today with this little talk. Much love to everybody. Until next time, keep well.